The beast no one dared to touch. The ship landed in silence. No engines roared. No weapons were drawn. Just a soft wind and the hiss of steam as the ramp lowered. Captain Elias, a human diplomat from Earth, stepped out onto the cold red soil of Taraxis 4, a neutral war moon. He had seen battlefields, he had seen blood and metal, but nothing. Nothing prepared him for what stood at the gates. Hundreds of alien soldiers in black and silver armor surrounded the landing zone, their eyes glowing under their helmets. But they weren't the reason Elias stopped mid-step. He saw it, the beast. It stood taller than any human soldier. Its body was covered in dark, scaly skin that shimmered slightly in the sun. 4 legs, thick and muscular, a tail like a whip. Its yellow eyes glowed, and its teeth were sharp enough to slice armor. The alien warriors moved aside to let it through, afraid to even breathe near it. Some whispered its name. Vorak. The creature didn't look at them. It stared straight at Elias and growled. Every human in Elias' crew backed away. Weapons clicked, tension cracked through the air. But Elias didn't move. He simply lowered his bag, stepped forward slowly, and met the beast's eyes. The alien guards tensed. Their hands hovered over blades. Even the wind seemed to stop. But Elias did something no one expected. He smiled and said softly, "You're not angry. You're just protecting her, aren't you?" The guards gasped. Some reached for their guns, then another figure appeared, walking through the silver gate at the far end of the landing field, Neria. She was tall, sharp-featured. Her skin had a faint violet glow beneath silver armor. Her long hair was tied in black cords that danced behind her like ribbons. She was beautiful, yes, but dangerous. Everyone knew who she was. Neria, the daughter of the High General, the silent commander of the Eastern Skies, the woman with the living weapon at her side. And right now she was watching Elias carefully. "Why didn't you run?" she asked in a calm voice. Elias kept his eyes on the beast. "Because he didn't want to hurt me." "You don't know that." "I do," Elias said. "If he did, I'd already be dead." Vorak growled again, louder now, deep, echoing, in the chest like thunder. Elias slowly bent down and reached into his coat. The guards screamed. Weapons aimed. Neria's hand twitched toward her blade, but Elias only pulled out a piece of dried meat, a ration bar. He unwrapped it and gently placed it on the ground, then stepped back. Vorak blinked. The beast sniffed the air, then slowly stepped forward. 1 step, 2. The snow cracked beneath his claws. Then he stopped in front of the food, sniffed it again, and ate it. The moment it was gone, he looked at Elias again. No growl, no anger, just curiosity. Then something stranger happened. Vorak sat, like a calm guard dog, watching, but relaxed. The guards didn't move. They didn't understand. But Neria did. She stepped closer, her voice lower. Now no one has ever stood that close to him. Not even my own people. Elias looked up at her. Maybe no one ever tried listening to him. "He's not human," she said. "He doesn't think like you do." Elias smiled. "Maybe, or maybe, he's more human than most soldiers I've met." Neria said nothing. Then she turned and walked away. "Come," she ordered. "The meeting hall is ready." Elias followed her. But Vorak? He walked between them. Not leading, not following, just joining. As they reached the silver tower ahead, one alien soldier whispered, behind his mask, "He shouldn't be alive right now." Another replied, "The beast should have killed him." But someone else, older, watching from the shadows, said softly, "Or maybe the beast saw something we didn't." That night, inside the metal walls of the alien citadel, Neria stood, alone by her window. Below, she watched Elias sleeping beside the fire, and near him, curled up like a lion at peace, Vorak. Eyes half closed, breathing slow, and watching not as a weapon, but as a guardian. The human who didn't run. The fire crackled, softly in the center of the stone floor. Captain Elias sat alone, his legs stretched toward the warmth. He had taken off his boots and set his coat aside. His eyes scanned the room, memorizing every crack in the walls, every flicker of torchlight. But his attention kept returning to the figure across from him. Vorak. The beast sat still, coiled like a statue made of muscle and shadow. His glowing yellow eyes never blinked. He watched Elias with the calm of a predator who wasn't hungry. Yet. But there was no fear in Elias's eyes. Only curiosity. "You're different, aren't you?" Elias spoke quietly, almost as if to himself. Vorak tilted his head slightly, as if listening. The large hall was quiet. Too quiet. Guards had refused to stay. Servants avoided the room. Even the air felt tense, as if holding its breath. But she remained. In the far corner, standing like carved stone, was Neria, her arms crossed, her back straight, her violet eyes focused on the man who refused to fear her beast. She finally stepped forward. "You sit with him like he's a pet." Elias smiled without turning. "He hasn't bitten me yet. He could crush your bones in seconds." "Then why hasn't he?" Neria walked around the fire and stopped beside Vorak. She placed her palm on his head. The beast closed his eyes. Soft, peaceful, almost gentle. Elias watched carefully. "You don't control him," he said. Neria looked down. "No. Then what keeps him calm?" She looked up slowly. "I do." There was silence. Then Neria sat on the opposite side of the fire, her hand never leaving Vorak's fur. She didn't speak for a while. Then, "Do you want to know what Vorak really is?" Elias leaned forward. "I thought I already knew." "You don't." She reached into a small pouch on her belt and pulled out a glowing blue crystal. She placed it gently near the fire. It hummed softly. Then it pulsed. The flames shifted, colors flickering white, then blue, and suddenly, images formed in the air. Holograms. They showed a lab, a cold glass lab, a small creature in a tank. Vorak, but younger, smaller, unstable. Beside him, a child. Elias leaned closer. "Is that?" "Yes," Neria said. "Me. They bred him from my blood. Tied him to my emotions, my thoughts, my fears." Vorak growled quietly as if remembering. "He was made to be my protector, my shadow, my weapon." Elias nodded slowly. "But you never wanted a weapon." "No," she said softly. "I wanted a friend." She looked at Elias. "You know why he didn't kill you?" "Why?" "Because I didn't want him to." Elias sat back watching Vorak. "And now?" Neria's gaze didn't waver. "Now I don't know what I want." The fire died a little. The warmth faded, but neither of them moved. For the first time, Elias felt something shifting. Not in the beast, not in the room, but in her. Later that night, as sleep crept over the edges of thought, Elias rolled onto his side near the fire. Vorak got up slowly, walked toward him, paused. Then, without sound, curled up beside Elias, his head resting near the man's boot. Neria watched from the shadows, wide-eyed. Her hand rose to her chest, just above her heart. She whispered something in her native tongue, words no translator could fully explain. But they meant, "He chose peace before I did." Her secrets were never meant, for a human morning came slowly to Taraxis 4. The sun didn't rise all at once. It peeled across the sky in soft waves of blue light, as if afraid to disturb what the stars had witnessed during the night. Inside the stone tower, Elias stirred beside the low fire. He blinked, stretched, and found a familiar weight still beside him. Vorak. The beast's massive head rested near Elias's foot. His yellow eyes were closed, his breathing calm, peaceful. Elias sat up carefully. Neria was already awake, sitting at the edge of the room, her back to him. She hadn't slept. She hadn't moved. You stayed, Elias said softly. I always do. Her voice was distant, guarded. He stood, walked to the fire, and warmed his hands. You said Vorak is tied to your emotions. I did. Then why is he still here? Still calm? She turned her head just enough for him to see the truth in her eyes. Because I haven't felt fear since you arrived. That silence hit harder than shouting. Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. Instead, he knelt near her and waited. Neria exhaled. Slow, heavy. I've only told pieces of the story. No outsider knows the rest. I'm not just an outsider, Elias said. Not anymore. She looked at him. There was no anger in her eyes now, only memory. I was raised in war, she began. No toys, no stories, just weapons, lessons, and trials. They trained me to command soldiers. They trained me to command beasts, but I wasn't supposed to care for them. She looked toward Vorak, who was now watching them with one open eye. I broke the rule. She touched a small scar near her collarbone. They punished me when they found out I cried the first time Vorak was hurt. They told me, a commander does not feel. A commander obeys. Elias clenched his fists. They tried to make you into something less than alive. No, she said. They tried to make me into something more than pain, more than weakness, more than human. And did it work? She turned her full body toward him now. I thought it had. Until you arrived. A faint smile touched Elias's lips. So you're blaming me? I'm thanking you, she whispered. For a long moment they sat in silence. Then Neria leaned forward. There was something in her eyes Elias hadn't seen before. Not power, not pride, but trust. She reached into her armor and pulled out a small vial, silver, humming faintly. What's that? Elias asked. She hesitated. This is a part of Vorak. He frowned. You mean a genetic copy? If I die, they'll make another. They'll grow him again, erase him, rebuild him. Elias stared at the vial. You kept this? She nodded. Because if they take him from me, I want to be the one who decides what happens next. She looked at Elias. I've kept that vial hidden for 10 years. I've never let anyone see it. Elias leaned forward. Then why are you showing me? She blinked, and in a whisper that didn't sound like a warrior, but like a girl who had once wished for a real friend, she said, because you're the first one who looked at him and saw me. Suddenly, the door slammed open. A soldier entered, breathless. Commander Neria, Human Command has issued a threat. They say the beast is too close to their officer. They want him removed. Neria stood fast, her voice sharpened again. Tell them he stays with me, but he stays. The soldier backed away, saluted, and left. Elias stood beside her now. They're scared of him, he said. They should be. They're scared of you too. She looked at him and smiled, just a little. Good. But deep inside, beneath her steel and scars, a quiet thought rose like morning light. For the first time, I don't want to be feared, I want to be understood. They tried to take him away. The storm started with silence. No sirens, no warnings, just the sudden hum of engines in the sky. Captain Elias stood at the edge of the stone balcony, staring up into the clouds. 6 human transport ships were descending fast, unannounced, uninvited. Inside the tower behind him, Vorak stirred. The beast lifted his head, growling low and long. He knew. Neria was already moving, armor strapped tight, her violet eyes glowing, with fury. They didn't listen, she said coldly. They never do, Elias replied. Minutes later, the courtyard of the alien stronghold was filled with soldiers. Human soldiers in white and blue armor. Their leader stepped forward, helmet off, voice firm. We're here under direct orders from Earth High Command. The creature known as Vorak must be turned over immediately. Neria stood at the front gate with Elias beside her. Vorak remained, still behind them, head lowered but watching. Always watching. You will not take him, Neria said. The human officer didn't flinch. "We have tranquilizers. Cages. We don't need your permission." Elias stepped forward. "You're making a mistake." "I follow orders," the officer replied. "And what if those orders create another war?" The officer raised his hand. "Begin the extraction." Everything happened fast. Drones dropped from the sky. Nets shot forward. The courtyard filled with flashes of blue light and electronic hums. Vorik didn't run. He roared, and the sound shook the ground. He tore through the first net like paper, dodged the second, but the third hit him square in the side. He collapsed, growling. Snarling but caught, Neria screamed, the kind of scream that made the walls shake, not from pain, from rage. She leapt forward like lightning blade drawn, but Elias stopped her. "Wait. They'll kill him," she shouted. Elias turned to the officer. His voice was calm, but sharp. "If you take him, she will not stop. She will bring every warrior from this moon. You won't survive." The officer hesitated. "Then convince me why he should live." Elias didn't answer with words. He walked to Vorik, still tangled in electric cords, breathing heavy. He knelt and reached out. "One hand on the beast's face, easy," he whispered. "I'm here." And Vorik stopped growling. He blinked once, then let out a soft, low whine. The human soldiers froze. One of them whispered, "He's calming down," just from the human's voice. Elias turned to them. "He's not just bonded to Neria anymore. He's bonded to me, to peace." Silence fell again. Only the wind moved. Then, from behind the human squad, a voice came from a comm speaker. "This is General Arlen. Hold all actions. We're reviewing the situation." The officer looked down at Elias. "You just bought him time. But this isn't over." The soldiers pulled back. The drones lifted. The nets dropped. Vorik stood up, slowly. His eyes locked onto Elias, then Neria, then Elias again, and he walked, shaking but proud, between them both. That night, Elias sat beside the fire again. Neria didn't speak. Vorik laid beside them, bandaged, quiet but safe. Elias broke the silence. "They don't understand him, but they're starting to understand you." Neria looked into the fire. "I don't care if they understand me." He smiled softly. "I think you do." She didn't answer, but her hand moved, slightly, reaching closer to his. And this time, she didn't pull away. The beast didn't save himself. The air was heavy with silence. Too still. Too quiet. Elias felt it in his chest before he heard it. Something was wrong. He stood in the middle of the stronghold's garden, alone for a rare moment of peace. Neria had gone to speak with her council. Vorik was resting in the shadows, curled, beneath a tree. The beast had barely eaten since the drone attack. He was healing, but slower than before. Then the ground trembled. Not from Vorik, not from machines, from something else. An explosion ripped through the eastern wall. The garden shook. Dust and fire shot into the sky. Soldiers screamed. Alarms wailed. Another strike. A surprise one. Someone wanted Vorik dead. Now. Elias ran toward the smoke. A human squad, rogue, masked, had breached the wall. This time, they weren't here to take Vorik. They were here to eliminate him. Blasters fired. One shot hit the stone near Vorik's head. The beast roared, louder than ever. The sound made glass shatter across the base. He rose to charge, but Elias was already running toward him. Another shot fired, straight at Elias, and in that instant, Vorik jumped in front of him. The blast hit the beast's side, hard. Blood, smoke, heat. Elias screamed, falling beside him. "Vorik, no!" The beast groaned but didn't fall. He stood, shaking, bleeding. He stood between Elias and the soldiers, body like a wall of pain and rage. Then from the far archway, Neria arrived, eyes blazing, blade drawn. She saw Elias down, she saw Vorak bleeding, and something inside her snapped. She didn't run. She flew, slicing through the attackers like wind through paper. She didn't scream. She let her silence do the killing. Within seconds, it was over. The rogue squad was gone, defeated, broken. The dust settled, and Neria dropped to her knees beside Vorak. He was still standing, but barely. Elias crawled toward them, coughing. Neria looked at him, not with fear, not with fury, but with something new, something real. "He protected you," she said softly. Elias nodded. "He chose to." She pressed her forehead to Vorak's, tears in her eyes, then whispered, "You didn't save yourself. You saved him, because I couldn't." Medics rushed in. Elias and Neria helped lower Vorak to the healing pad, but neither of them left his side, not for hours, not even when the Council demanded answers, not even when Earth's command sent a warning. Later that night, Elias sat with Neria under the stars. "He could have run," Elias said. "He never would," she replied. "He saved me." Neria turned toward him. "No," she said. "He saved." And for the first time she reached for Elias's hand and held it, not in secret, not in fear, but in truth. Vorak stirred in his sleep, ears twitching, his breathing steadied. Because tonight, he knew something had changed. He was no longer just Neria's beast. He was their guardian, their bond, their bridge between two worlds. Truth even she was afraid of. The medbay lights glowed soft blue as the monitors beeped slowly. Vorak lay still on the reinforced platform, his breathing steady but low. His side was bandaged. His claws twitched every now and then like he was dreaming. Neria sat beside him, shoulders tense, her hands folded tight. Elias stood across the room, arms crossed, watching her more than the beast. "He'll survive," Elias said gently. "I know," she whispered. But something in her voice said she didn't believe it. Not completely. Not yet. She stood, turned to the console behind her, and tapped the data pad. A 3D scan of Vorak's body rotated in the air. It showed layers of muscle, nerves, and then something else, something glowing beneath the surface. Elias stepped closer. "What is that?" Neria stared at it, her voice low. "I've never seen it before." She zoomed in. The glow wasn't random. It pulsed in a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "But that's not his," she whispered. "That frequency, it's not mine." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" "He's linked to me. That's how he was made. Every thought, every signal, every emotional spike, he mirrors it. That's how we control each other." She paused. "But this rhythm, it's new." She opened a second panel, a brainwave chart. One line showed Vorak's readings. The second line was Elias's. They matched. Elias's eyes widened. "What is this saying?" Neria turned toward him, her voice trembling for the first time. "He's bonding to you." The silence hit hard. Elias looked at Vorak, still asleep, peaceful, unaware of what he was becoming. "But I'm not genetically tied to him." "You're not," Neria said. "That's what makes this impossible." She sat down heavily like the weight of it all had landed at once. "For 10 years I believed he was an extension of me, that his power, his mind, his instincts, they were mine." She looked up at Elias. "But he changed. The moment you showed him kindness." Elias said nothing. He simply walked to Vorak, knelt beside the beast and laid his hand on his massive head. "He saw something in me," Elias said quietly. "Or maybe he saw something you wanted to believe in, but didn't know how." Neria watched Elias's hand stroke the fur behind Vorak's jaw, and then the beast stirred, just a twitch, a slow lift of his head, and a sound, a deep, low purr that no one in the room had ever heard before. a sound not tied to fear, not to war, but to comfort. Neria stepped forward slowly, as if she were stepping into something sacred. "He's responding to your touch," she whispered. Elias nodded. "He's never done that for anyone but me," she added. "Maybe," Elias said gently. "He doesn't see us as separate anymore." The idea settled into the room like fog, not heavy, not dark, but dense with meaning. Neria sat beside Elias, her voice quieter now. "If he's bonding to you, that changes everything." "I know. It means if I lose you, I might lose him too." She looked into Elias's eyes, and he saw something that had never been there before. Fear, not of war, not of death, but of loss. Elias took her hand. "I'm not going anywhere." She didn't answer with words. She just held his hand tighter, and for the first time, they both looked at Vorak not as a weapon, but as something more, a bridge between two hearts, between two worlds. And neither of them knew what would come next, only that they'd face it together. Everyone feared her pet, until they watched him choose. The battlefield was quiet again, but it wasn't over. Across the valley, soldiers stood at the ready, humans on one side, aliens on the other. Between them stood a small rise of scorched earth, and at the top of that rise stood Vorak, alone. The skies above were black with storm clouds. Peace talks had failed. Accusations, threats, guns raised, commands shouted, and now it had come to this. One creature, one choice. Neria and Elias stood just behind him, not giving orders, just watching. "He's waiting," Elias said. "For what?" Neria asked. "For us to believe." Across the field, the human general lifted his arm. Snipers locked in, on Vorak, on Elias. On her, the alien side readied their plasma cannons. If one side fired, the other would burn the world to ash. But Vorak didn't move. He looked left. He looked right. Then he sat down. The soldiers blinked. Whispers spread. No growl, no roar, no blood, just silence. And the slow, peaceful rhythm of his breath. Then Elias stepped forward, slowly, arms raised. No armor. No weapon, just a voice. "He won't fight." The general barked. "He's dangerous." "He's peaceful," Elias replied, "because she taught him to feel, and I showed him he had a choice." Neria stepped beside him. "We all have one." Now a long silence, then, one by one, soldiers lowered their weapons, not because they were ordered, but because they watched him choose. The beast they feared chose peace. A young alien boy in the crowd whispered, "But he's a monster." His mother knelt beside him. "No," she said, "he's something better." A full day passed. No one fired a shot. The next morning, diplomats from both sides gathered, unarmed, and Vorak stood at the gate, not as a guard, as a witness. Weeks later, statues were raised, not of kings, not of generals, but of a beast sitting calmly, with a human on one side and an alien on the other. Underneath it, one line was carved in every language. "He chose what we could not." In a quiet home far from war, Elias sat beside a warm fire. Neria leaned against his shoulder, eyes closed, and at their feet, Vorak slept, peacefully, finally, because in the end, he hadn't been her weapon or their threat. He was their beginning, the end. A beast they feared, chose peace before they did, and, by doing so, saved them all.